Twins bounce back from a drubbing on Saturday, and on Sunday win in stunning come-from-behind fashion because of a familiar face. Also, the Rays are up next, so we'll talk about that. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. Been watching the Twins for 3 decades, covering them for about half as long, and I'm joined by my broadcast partner, Mr. Dave Brown. You can follow him on the tweets while you're unfollowing me at @AnswerDaveBrown. He's been a ball writer for about a quarter century and been in the BBWAA for a little over a decade, coming off his first Hall of Fame ballot. And actually, that was the powder that lit the fuse to get us to where this show is at this point. So a lot of fun we're having here. As a reminder, be active in the comments. Love to hear from you on YouTube, especially if you're watching us during the premiere. 5-star reviews are huge on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all that good stuff. Like, subscribe on YouTube, and all that fun stuff. By the way, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel to get started. FanDuel.com to get started. Easy for me to say. Twins will be heading out on the road. They've got the Tampa Bay Rays coming up here, and you can catch every pitch of the Twins' hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury and friends on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app, search Twins. And so they're in Tampa, 5:50 first pitch, Simeon Woods Richardson against old friend Zach Littell, who's coming off the IL to make a start after a 15-day stint with right shoulder fatigue. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of things, but I think the best place to start, Dave, is this thriller of a game. I was listening to, actually, funnily enough, it was Barbie Day at the ballpark, and so I'm celebrating with a little Barbie soda. People can't see.
Oh, I can see.
Yeah, if they're not watching on YouTube, which is why you should be watching on YouTube. So I'm celebrating with that, and by wearing the 1991 Twins World Series gimmick on top of my head, because you know who the Twins beat to get to the World Series that year? Those doggone Blue Jays. So Twins show that 15-0 drubbing, not 12-ish hours before, maybe a little longer than that, out of their minds, out of their collective psyches. And not only do they win, but they do it in come-from-behind fashion. They show some mental fortitude. And Royce Lewis, looking like Royce Lewis again.
Well, Lewis hit a 3-run homer. He was not particularly impressed with it. He gave looks like, the wind took it, or I didn't hit it well. And StatCast backed it up. It was like 91 miles an hour. I don't know if how unlikely of a home run it was at that exit velocity, but so I don't know if
got some data on that.
Oh my God. But I thought it was funny. He was let's do. Well, I thought you were saving it for later, but let's do it now. Let's go.
So there have been 519 plate appearances that have ended with a batted ball 91.1 miles per hour or slower and a launch angle of 31 degrees. 2 of those have been home runs. So Royce Lewis and then Emmanuel Valdez, who I believe is with the Red Sox. Yeah. There have been 106 hits. The slash line is 213, 205, 264. So a 469 OPS. And before you ask, yes, OBP lower than average because of, sack flies and sack whatever. But yeah, to call this a unlikely home run, .070 expected batting average. It was a homer in 11 of 30 MLB ballparks. You know what? Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And, every now and then it's kind of fun to play Guardians ball, especially if it also means a home run for Royce Lewis. And
I knew the Guardians were coming into this somehow.
Yes.
Quickly.
Yes, and not only that, but I was kind of getting tired of Royce Lewis hero ball, and not that I'm tired of Royce in any way, shape, or form about him. It was just it felt like he was taking on too much of the pressure. He wanted to be the Kirby Puckett of the moment when it's not only not the World Series, it's not 1987, not 1991, and it's like, Royce, you just need to be who you are, and everything will be fine. Well, you know what? Did he change something? Did he not? Did he just keep doing his thing and it came, it worked out for him? For me, I guess sometimes I think in terms of, don't swing at everything or take the walk every now and then, or, deviate your approach if it's not working. Sometimes you got to work your plan and plan your work and just keep at it. And so maybe it's not necessarily about adjustments, but just adjustments in terms of changes, but adjustments in terms of what you're doing, adapting better to positive results. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. I don't know. I like to make fun of I call it the StatCast World Series. Whenever one of our Twitter friends will bring up some kind of likely or unlikely event that happened where the Twins hit the ball really hard for an entire inning and didn't have anything to show for it. Or when the Guardians would go for an entire game without hitting the ball hard and somehow put 5 runs on the board.
Have you seen Toronto's expected batting average for this game, by the way?
What was it?
138.
Oh, man.
212 for the Twins, so not great there either, but 138. My goodness.
You know what I found interesting about the Blue Jays' approach to this game? Speaking of a low batting average, they had Vladimir Guerrero and Gary Varsho's son and George Springer. Alejandro Kirk isn't what he was a couple of years ago,
right?
But they had a whole bunch of guys on the bench that they didn't use, and didn't pinch hit him in the 9th inning. I don't know. John Schneider is he's doing something in Toronto. I don't know that can't have gone over real well among the fandom, but.
Well, could you imagine the reaction if it was Twins Twitter in that situation?
I don't even want to joke about it. It would have been so unbearable. Although, and I don't know that I would have disagreed with them.
Right.
Hey, you're giving Vladimir Guerrero the day off. I guess, the Twins will take it. But it's funny, 88 miles an hour is barely enough to get Marty McFly back to 1955. But so 91 should be good enough for Royce Lewis to hit a home run. I don't know if he's going to be, if this is going to turn him around and get him going, but maybe if it's a mental issue, and I mean that in a, is he just kind of overthinking things and putting too much pressure on himself, like you said, maybe it will. But certainly he's still not swinging the bat great. So we'll see if this leads to anything. But sometimes, like the TV guys were noting, is Rocco standing in a different place than he was last inning? And he's just trying to change his luck. And Glenn even said, like, he put it like that Rocco's just trying to change it up in any way possible. So I think the Twins are at the point where they'll just take it at this point. Griffin Jax had the worst game of his season and everyone else picked him up. And that was a real nice story. And we'll see if going into the Rays series, if this is going to be a momentum switch. They need to start winning games, and this would be a great time to start.
Was there any grumbling about Jax on Twitter? Because if there was, I'm going to throw hands because
I was cleaning in the garage, so I had the game. I had the game on my phone. I was listening to the TV broadcast, and I had the little game on my phone as I was cleaning the garage. So thankfully, I don't know. It probably, I think I did see some grumbling or worries when Joan Duran came in, and maybe it was like, Duran's not working out the 9th inning, and now Jax has gone to heck. So I can imagine there was probably stuff like that going on.
Yeah, well, I'll have some data on how good he was in August. Probably some more Royce Lewis talk. Maybe a little appreciation for Cole Sands. Little curious why the Twins struggled against Yariel Rodriguez and a bunch of other stuff here. Let's, though, take our first pause, and when we come back, we'll hit it again as such. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, but now we have something different for you. Now through September 22nd, so a little over 3 weeks or about 3 weeks, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now, I don't know if you've seen, but Sunday Ticket is certainly not cheap. So this is a very nice deal to get a 3-week trial, see if it's for you, see if you like it. And with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game for as long as your trial lasts. And then if you decide to extend beyond that, you have Sunday Ticket and you can see pretty much anything you want to. All you need, though, is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. You can watch fun rookies like Caleb Williams and JJ McC. Okay, never mind about that one.
Oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Why'd you say him?
I don't know. But hey, this is a great deal. You got to check it out. FanDuel.com/lockedon. They'll get you taken care of. All right, we are here to talk about Griffin Jax. So his 8th inning was, I don't even think I'd call it that bumpy. Lucas walked. Ernie Clement, who homered earlier in the game off Bailey Ober, single to right. Spencer Horwitz lines out. Lucas takes third. Ernie Clement steals second. Addison Barger walks. So the bases are loaded. And then Jax hits Leo Jimenez with a pitch and gets a grounder to short and then a grounder to second. 2 runs come in. And if you're wondering, hey, I feel like Griffin Jax has been pretty good lately. This is kind of atypical, right? In August, he gave up 0 earned runs. ERA-wise, that's a 0.00. That's not hard to figure out in 12 1/3 innings.
Good job, Brandon.
Exactly. 17 strikeouts, 0 walks. If you're wondering, that's a 0.42 FIP, by the way. And a slash line against of 140/140/140. No, I'm not scratched. No, I'm not skipping. He gave up 6 hits in the month. They were all singles. So, yes, it's going to be every now and then a hiccup. Every now and then Griffin Jax will be slightly mortal. And they did, like you said, they picked him up, which was huge. I mean, it felt like a vintage Royce Lewis performance. And you know what cracked me up? I don't know if it was Corey who said it, but he goes, that breaks a 16-game career-long streak without a homer for Royce Lewis. And I'm thinking to myself, 16 games is this man's career-long without a homer. That feels, I mean, I don't know. Someone great like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has probably gone 20, 25 games without a homer, right? I mean, it just feels like the myth, the man, the myth, the legend of Royce Lewis. Like when you put it in context like that, it's like, man, when he's on the field and doing what he does, we're seeing greatness.
There's definitely a reason why we have the expectations that we do for Royce Lewis, and we kind of, when it's not there, we kind of miss it. Yeah. He's had some big homers and big moments. Going back to the playoffs last year, we just expect him to be always in a groove. And he even said it was a moment of. He was pretty humble today because he said, well, I didn't hit that very well. I think the wind took it. But he said that he doesn't slump. And I thought maybe he was kidding, but I don't think he was. And, he's a confident, he is a confident person for sure. And I think that usually works to his benefit. So, but maybe sometimes it comes off it doesn't come off as hubris, but maybe that did for me. So, and like I said, we talked about how hard he didn't hit the ball, 91 miles an hour. That's not usually going to get it done. So obviously there's still things that he's got to be working through, but if it's just a matter of confidence, I would say that he's probably got it back at this point.
What'd you make of the offense struggling against Yariel Rodriguez, though? Because his previous 3 starts, 9.42 ERA, 9.87 OPS against, 5 homers and 14 1/3 innings.
What was their expected batting average? What was the Twins? Do you have that handy? You said
it was like 212, I think. I had it pulled up here.
Not that good.
And then I went into Rodriguez had 5 swinging strikes, and so was it 57 pitches? Wasn't long for the game. He's been kind of, I don't know. He's used a little differently. They're not really stretching him out that much, but
they've been in a scoreless rut, or had been for a couple and a half days,
for about 7 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, right.
212 expected batting average for the Twins, which kind of mirrors the homer for Royce. I mean, Royce's 070 was like the 10th least likely to be a hit today, and the least likely ball that became a hit in any shape or form today, although only 9 hits, so it's not really a great comparison.
Well, I think that's sort of what we've come to expect from the Twins offense too. For as great as they are sometimes, and as good as they are compared to the rest of the league, 8th or 9th, something like that, and runs scored, they go through these periods, and it seems to me that every offense in the league, even the best, they must go through similar periods. It's not, we sort of get caught up in whatever team we're paying attention to the closest. Twins fans will go on Twitter and they'll make noise like, "This is the only franchise that this happens to," and "Oh my goodness, this is so awful," and "Oh, that's Twins baseball," and they don't, they mean it in a ironic way, or not nice way, but that we've seen this before from the Twins. Maybe we've seen it before from the Twins, where they go forever and ever, seemingly without, hitting the ball well. And I was a little like, I saw Wallner made an out to start the 8th inning, and he slammed his bat down, and that's not like him to do that. And I'm like, are the Twins kind of getting out of their zone and being impatient and all that? But then the bottom of the order, or the smaller guys in the lineup, like Martin, got on base, Jeffers, who's that's been huge. For as much as the Twins have needed help lately, Jeffers being revived has been a big help, hitting like he did before. It isn't just Vasquez handling the entire loaded catcher, so because he was going to cool off eventually too. So again, teamwork, making the dream work for the Twins lineup. But they're not going to be scoring runs. The faucet is going to be turned off sometimes. So frustrating, but again, they got past it.
136 games into the season, and Twins. So all 4 runs in this one scored in the 7th inning or later for the Twins. 2 of the 3 in the 7th or later for the Jays. But we're 136 games in. The Twins have scored 248 runs in the 7th inning or later. Right. That's second in MLB behind the Diamondbacks. They've allowed 185, so 12th. But the differential of plus 63 is the largest in MLB. To me, part of me thinks like that's not sustainable because of how modern bullpens are built. And when you're scoring runs, when you're behind, you're facing some of the best relievers that teams have to offer. But we're also 136 games into this thing. Like, at what point do you just say, hey, don't give up on this team if they're down 2-0 in the 8th, 3-0 in the 7th? They may have some magic up their sleeve. I think I mixed my metaphor there a little bit, but.
Well, unfortunately, I feel like the answer to this is it could go either way. I mean, they could continue to do this, but then, the playoffs, all of a sudden stuff stops, and you get into, it's real easy to get into a rut and a scoreless period in the playoffs, and things aren't working. And then all of a sudden your season's over. So I don't know. I think what we can take from it being almost 140 games into the season is that the Twins are resilient and they persevere, and they are good hitters, and that they'll be able to overcome the other team's better pitchers late in the game. This is just on the average. Once we get into the competition of the playoffs, who the heck knows? But I think the numbers are a good indicator, a positive indicator of what the Twins are capable of. Whether they end up doing it, I don't know. But I would say the way the Twins win games in the regular season, it's better to win them that way than to not have the capability. So I look at it as a positive, even though it could end at any moment.
Yeah, I think their resiliency applies in a macro and micro sense, and I think the fact that they have both of those things is good because they've won games without Carlos Correa, without Byron Buxton, without all these guys, so they can win when the chips are down in the big picture and in the small picture. And I think we've seen that here recently. So let's do this. Let's take a pause. I want to ask you I want to talk about the Rays, who are just a heaping pile of meh. And that's who the Twins will have next for 4. Littell, Springs, Alexander, and Taj Bradley, who's been absolutely dreadful recently. So we'll do a little bit of that. I want to ask you about Royce Lewis playing second base, which is a little interesting besides 2. But we'll take our last break right here. Friends, you got to try out the app that is your ticket destination. It's Game Time. If you got to use the browser, it's gametime.co.co. But Game Time is the place to be if you're looking for a Twins game to get to, whether you're at home or if you're in another city and there's a Twins playing there or wherever. I mean, honestly, you don't have to be stuck on the Twins. If you want to go watch an NFL game in Detroit, you have that option. Game Time will help you out. My favorite thing is to toggle the all-in pricing, because what I love to know the second that I commit to a ticket is what it's going to cost me. I don't want to see $20 and then end up paying $60 like some of the other guys will run you through that ringer. And so Game Time also has, they'll show you the value of the seats. They'll recommend crazy values so you can get the best bang for your buck. You can sit as close as possible for the money that you're willing to spend. It's incredible. I also love the panoramic views from the seats. So if you're sitting in section 100, row 3, seat 7, which was my season ticket at the Metrodome, by the way, you'll have a panoramic view of what it's going to look like from where you're sitting. So again, that is huge for me. Lowest ticket price guarantee. You find it cheaper somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying concert, sports, and all these types of tickets with Game Time. Really, seriously, concerts, you name it. They have it on Game Time. You got to check it out. But download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Were you shocked to see that Royce played second base today? I feel like I talked about this somewhere. I don't know if it was this show, but I definitely was like, I wonder if that would make some sense.
You stepping out on me, Brandon?
Next question.
You talking to some other show behind my back?
No, I was on TV in Toronto, though. That was kind of cool.
You were on TV?
Yeah, with Blake Murphy.
You were on Metric Television? Wow.
Friend of the show. Yeah, I don't know what I don't have a metric.
Well, you're sort of on TV now.
I was ootin' a boot on the TV.
Right. That's a really good. I hope you didn't do that impression for the Canadians watching, because they flip you off.
Yeah, they told me to trample off or something. I don't know. It was weird.
That didn't go so well. What was the original question? Oh, second base, Royce Lewis.
Oh, Royce at second. Yeah.
I was listening to the conversation that Perkins and Corey were having about that, and they're like, "Yeah, well, just talking to Rocco about it, it just seems like the Twins went through a whole bunch of different scenarios, depending on who was on their roster at the time. Yeah, so if we switch these guys out, and this guy isn't available and this guy's hurt, what are the chances that we're actually going to put him at second base?" And sure enough, the way that the Twins play baseball and the way Rocco manages, I don't even think they really needed to do all those exercises. It was going to happen if they were going to work him out at second base. It was almost like they were willing it to happen themselves. And I think, again, listening to and watching him, he did pretty well. I don't know if he, I think Brooks Lee would be preferable at second, but Lee was at short, and there was actually a play that Lee didn't make today in the field that could have ended up being really costly, and
really bad,
it didn't turn out to kill him, but that gave me a little pause. So I think it's just it fits with what Rocco wants to do. He's certainly a good enough athlete to do it. He's been a shortstop. He's been a center fielder. It's kind of hard to find. It's becoming harder to find a position for Lewis just because third base, he's had some issues with some of the throws, and I don't know about his range either. So it's nice to have this card in the deck, especially like if Austin Martin has to stay in the outfield, which they did today. So it's nice that it's there. It sort of has played out how Rocco thought it might, and that's good.
I had a friend message me asking how surprised I was that Michael Hellman got the call as a September call-up as opposed to Deshaun Kiersey. And I didn't have time to think about it. I was actually out at the fair, as you can tell by my sunburn if you're watching on YouTube. But, now that I think about it, he's had an incredible year at St. Paul. 63 games, slashing 283, 367, 508. St. Paul last year in 27 games, 902 OPS. Smoked it in Wichita the year before that, and then jumped to St. Paul and held his own as a 26-year-old. So he's been old for the levels, but he can clearly play. This year he's played one game at second base, which has been his primary position for his career. But he's played 10 games at third, 17 in center. He's DH 3 times. He's played 4 in left, 28 at short. He's played first base. He hasn't caught, and by the closest I can tell is that's about all he hasn't done yet. This is a Twins kind of guy. He plays everywhere, and he bats right-handed as opposed to Kiersey, who's a left-handed hitter. My initial thought was, I was thinking Kiersey, and then I kind of dove into it, and I'm like, Hellman's having a perfectly solid, strong season, and he does exactly what they want, which is plays everywhere. So to me, I probably should not have been all that surprised.
Right. Just based on his record, it looks like Hellman can cut the mustard. Oh, wrong condiment. Sorry about that.
Somebody in our comments said you needed to stop trying to be funny.
Did you? Do you think that they'll spread him all over the field?
Did you see that I replied? Did you see I replied to that comment?
I don't read the comments. What'd they say?
They said, you guys got to quit trying to be funny, especially Dave. And I said, no.
Who's trying?
I don't know. Trying, not crying.
That's a common misconception when people hear me and they don't laugh. They think it's because I'm not trying. That's not true.
I said, no, we're not going to quit thinking we're funny.
Actually, I think I said that. I said that wrong. I am trying. No, I'm not trying. I don't know.
We'll get
I
it
don't
out.
even know what I'm doing.
We'll get it out in post-production. Don't worry about it. Wink, wink. Let's quickly.
Yeah, you make a good point though. Do we have any more commercials?
No, but I do want to talk about the Rays for a split second.
Oh, sure.
They're the most meh of meh. They're a game under 500 at home, a game under 500 on the road. They have not played all that well. Their offense has really stunk the last couple weeks. They're 7 games out of a playoff spot. As last I checked, they're not making any noise in the East, and they're far enough out in the wild card you can pretty much put some dirt over them. But what do the Twins have to be keenly aware of? Because Littell Springs, Tyler Alexander, Taj Bradley, if you didn't know, that Littell was coming off the IL. Alexander's been working as a reliever. Taj has been a mess lately. You'd think, okay, maybe these would be tougher matchups. Also, there's a rumor the Twins might go to a 6-man rotation, and Roster Resource has Louis Varland penciled in starting that third game. So that would bring Pablo into game 4 and then bump Zebby to Kansas City against Cole Reagans on the 6th, which I believe is
it wouldn't surprise me if the Twins thought, hey, our guys could use an extra day. They've talked about that before.
I think you're exactly right.
Earlier in the season. So from that standpoint, am I excited about Louis going back to the rotation, I think we talked about this briefly, maybe not in the context of a 6-man rotation, but
Yeah.
no, I'm not excited about Louis going back to the rotation, but but I would be excited again. Hopefully Rocco can hear me. Putting him in the bullpen. I think that would be a great idea. I think they should try that. But who starts this extra game? If not him, Randy Dobnak isn't getting results. So I guess it's got to be Louis because he's worked out. He's worked up to go 5 innings.
Yeah.
I suppose the Rays scare the heck out of me just because they typically do. That ballpark is weird.
It is.
Fish tank in center field. It's dark. It's a scary place. It's an easy place to go and just have everything implode at once. Not to be like a doomsayer, but this is a time where the Twins can kind of kick them to the curb though, because they've been very mediocre. Their hitting is not good, although they do have Junior Caminero coming up.
Yandy.
Finally, they what's that?
And Yandy, he's decent.
Yeah. They're done messing around with Caminero's. I swear he's got a lawsuit because of his service time manipulation. But so it's time for the Twins to push the Rays down even further. They're not mathematically eliminated, but they're all but.
I'm going to leave this before we take off. How about this for a comparison? Louis Varland could be the poor man's Scott Baker. Now, marinate on that. We'll talk about it when he pitches again. This has been Locked On Twins. He's Dave Brown. I'm Brandon Warmby. Thank you for checking us out yet again, and we'll see you tomorrow
Night.
night.
Is that some kind of joke? The poor man Scott Baker?